What I would like to do in this video is provide a summary of two recent publications from the Development of Youth Track and Field Athletics project. Before I begin, I'd just like to acknowledge my collaborators from various universities and the support of the Institute of Sport at the University of Chichester, where this project was begun. The data for this project comes from the Power of 10, which is a publicly available database of results on UK track and field athletics. We were interested in the relationship between success at youth levels and at later ages, particularly at senior level. So the first thing we did was we looked at the top 20 senior athletes across a range of events, and we identified how many of them had held a top 20 ranking when they were under 13, under 15, under 17 and under 20. So here are the first results, and they come from when these senior athletes were under 13. These are the code for the three bars. So you see in white, this is the number of successful seniors who were also ranked in the top 20 at under 13, and straight away you'll see that number is very low. This is the data for senior males. The data for senior females is very similar, and it's about 10% of those athletes who were top ranked as seniors were also top ranked as under 13s. And the big result here is that 80% of those who would go on to become top ranked seniors were not even listed on the rankings at under 13. So this is our first indication that youth success is not required to be a successful senior. When we look at the later age grades, so starting with under 15, we again see that only a minority of seniors have been successful at under 15. And as you go up to under 17 and under 20, that number increases. But these findings shouldn't be surprising. This is what we know from is the pattern of results in many other sports. But this is one of the first demonstrations of these findings within track and field. We wanted to confirm these findings, so we looked at athletes who were ranked as top 20 at under 13 and looked to see how they progressed in later age groups. So here, for instance, is all of those athletes that we could find who were ranked in the top 20 during the years 2005 to 2015 or 2013, and were ranked in the top 20 as under 13s. What you can see is that only 38% of them were still ranked in the top 20 2 years later, and so already we're seeing that it's a minority of athletes who retain their top 20 ranking across just 2 years. When we compare all those under 13s and how they performed at under 17, we see that number has decreased again. Now it's only 25% of those who were top ranked as under 13s are still top ranked as under 17s. And we have 44% of those athletes who were top ranked under 13 who aren't listed on the system anymore. Now we don't know if this is because they have dropped out of track and field or because they are no longer competing at a high enough standard. But certainly again we're seeing that it's only a minority of those athletes who are top ranked at under 13 who are able to sustain that performance at under 17, and if we look at under 20 we see it's smaller again. So now it's only 15% of those who had been top ranked as under 13s were still ranked in the top 20 at under 20, and fully 72% are not listed on the system anymore. So again, this is reinforcing the message that we had from our first set of data, that early success is not a prerequisite for later success in track and field athletics. Here are the equivalent figures for the under 15 through to under 17 and under 15 to under 20 comparison, as well as the under 17 to under 20 comparison. So feel free to pause the video and study these figures if you like, but again you see a similar message. So far I've talked about the top 20 ranked athletes. We also looked at changes in rankings and changes in performance for all athletes that we could find in the system. And here you can see an example of our results. We have plotted the athletes' ranking at under 13 against their ranking at under 15. And it looks like a random scattering of dots. And what that means is that there is huge variation in somebody's ranking, not just if in the elite, the top 20 performers, but across all performers in track and field. There's very large variation in performances and in rankings. Just for example, if you focus on the two dots here, who were ranked just outside 400th at under 13, well, both of those individuals were ranked in the top 20 at under 15 only 2 years later. So the graph shows, I think, quite visually just how much variation exists across these two age groups. So we've looked at our data in 3 different ways. We've looked at senior athletes going backwards, we've looked at top ranked under 13s going forwards, and then we've looked at all of the data that we have for individuals ranked at under 13 and under 15. And in all 3 cases, we're getting the same message. Performance at youth level is not a valid predictor of later performance. An obvious question to ask is, why is this the case? If you look at any group of 12-year-olds, you will see wide variation in growth, and we suspect that this difference in growth is partly responsible for the weak relationship between youth success and success at later age categories. A simple way to test this hypothesis is to look at relative age. So in the UK, children born in September, which is the start of the competitive year, are almost a full year older than children born in August, whom they will be competing against. So, on average, September-born children will bring about 1 year's extra growth to the contest with their August-born peers. Now, we know that roughly the same number of children are born in each quarter of the year. So, if relative age, if growth does not have an influence on results, we would expect to see the national rankings in athletics containing the same number of children who were born in each quarter of the year. Is that what we see? Well, the answer is a resounding no. Here are the results from the under 13 individuals, and you can see that actually almost 50% of athletes, and this is for the male 100 meters, almost 50% of athletes were born in the first quarter of the year, when, as the red line indicates, we'd only expect 25% of the athletes on the ranking to be born in that time frame. And similarly, there are very few athletes who were born in the last quarter of the year. So, in youth athletics, there's a clear bias in favour of the relatively older athlete. So here are the results for the other age groups. And I'm going to just draw your attention to senior level. Now, at senior level, there should no longer be any differences due to maturation, due to individuals varying in their level of growth. But we still see a relative age effect in the majority of cases. In other words, the bias that has been introduced at under 13 has a long-lasting legacy. When we look at the top-ranked athlete, as opposed to everybody, so here are those male under 13 athletes who were ranked in the top 20, and now you can see that actually almost 65% were born in the first quarter of the year, and it's less than 5% of athletes born in the last quarter of the year who are ranked in the top 20 at under 13 for the 100 meters for boys. So relative age clearly has a large impact on who is successful at under 13, and we suspect that this initial differences due to growth are what's fueling this weak relationship between youth and later success. We have started looking at how well coaches and parents are aware of this issue and related issues, and here's just a sample of our results so far. And they were consistent between coaches and parents. Only about 50% correctly identified the relative age effect within youth track and field. So clearly there's work to be done educating parents and coaches as to the existence of the relative age effect, and then what you do about it in your interaction with your athletes, in your club structures, and so on. If you would like to learn more about the research that we are doing, it is called the Developing Youth Track and Field Athletes Project, and if you follow this link or use the QR code on the screen, that will take you to a page which has example papers that we've published to date and will contain updates on future work as well. So the take-home message is success at youth level is not related to success at under 20 or senior level, and relative age has a large effect on who's successful in youth athletics, and therefore we need to take steps to address that. Thank you very much for listening. My email address and Twitter handle are here on the bottom of the screen. Feedback is always welcome. Thank you very much.